Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, the 29th day of May, the last Wednesday in May. Hopefully, all of our American listeners had a happy, safe, memorializing Memorial Day. Always confused me how you guys have Memorial Day and Veterans Day and kind of celebrate Remembrance Day and all that kind of stuff. We had Victoria Day here in Canada at the same time you guys have Memorial Day after Queen Victoria. And now there's no E in here to make fun of the Queen like he would whenever we brought this up in Portland. I'm Sean King. Thank you guys very much for joining us. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about more Tim Cook. He was at the All Things D11 conference, opened that conference as the CEO of Apple traditionally does. This is Cook's second year doing it. We'll talk about what he did and didn't say. And we'll also talk about WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference. Expectations. Our friend Jim Downpour from The Loop at loopinsight.com has written an article about those expectations and what he expects to see and what we can't expect to see. So we'll talk to him about that. We won't be talking to our IRC babe Sly. She's unfortunately under the weather again, so no shout-outs, anniversaries, birthday greetings, weird, wacky websites of the week. But if you have any of that stuff, send it off to her. She's Sly at yourmaclifeshow.com. As always, we love for you guys who are tuned in to please join us in the IRC chat room. If you go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com, right there in the front of the page is the video. On top of the video is the IRC. We can't make it any easier for you. Seriously. You just put your name in, click, you're an IRC. And you don't got to actively participate. Just read what the other folks are doing. And when you feel like it, jump in and say your piece. Sly and the gang there will help you with any IRC commands, change your nickname or things like that. So please join us in there. Half the fun of the show, as we've always said, is in our IRC chat room. As always, send us emails to onair at yourmaclifeshow.com. If you have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to get to the audience or to me, that's the best way to do it, is onair at yourmaclifeshow.com. I'm going to keep talking about this because it's going to keep blowing my mind. This past weekend, I went out with Cute Italian Girl and Cute Italian Girl's daughter, and we went riding in an area, I want to say south of Banff proper, called Kananaskis, which is an Indian word for never mind white boy. We couldn't take the motorcycle because half of the loop that we went on was unpaved. I could have ridden on the bike, but there was three of us, so we can't ride on a bike. So we went on this loop, and most of the photos that I took, if you go to my Flickr page, we were talking about Flickr last week, so I decided to take some pictures and post on Flickr, flickr.com/yourmaclife. Most of the pictures I took that you see on the Flickr page are from the car, literally as we're driving. This place, words fail. It's so spectacularly beautiful. For you folks who aren't watching the video, if you're listening to the archive, again, flickr.com/yourmaclife. And you'll see all the pictures I've got on Flickr, and this is the Kananaskis Mountains set. But it was kind of nice because I think about 3 days beforehand, we had snow in the Banff area. About 2 inches on the ground at ground level, but probably a lot more up in the mountains. And just unbelievable beauty for the entire trip as we drove around. Some of it was a little scary, to be honest, not because of the mountains, not because of the gravel roads, but because of the gigantic freaking wildlife you see. On the video now, if you're watching the video feed, there's a completely aptly named bighorn sheep. Oh my God, they have big horns, hence the name. And not only are they bighorn sheep, but they're bighorn sheep that feel they have a right to the middle of the road. And I've said it before, we talk about motorcycling. When you learn the motorcycling, you learn there are two kinds of things in the road. There's squishables and non-squishables. Squirrels, definitely squishable. Cats, squishable. Sorry, cat people. Dogs, probably squishable. But bighorn sheep, not squishable. Do not hit one of these things. They will cause amazing amounts of damage. And they're standing on the side of the road, and you see in the video, in the picture, apparently they're licking the salt off the roads that's leaching up, either the salt that was put down when, winter ice conditions, or salt that's leaching up out of the pavement. And they're quite happily, these animals were not startled as we went by them. They didn't give us a second look. If you're a motorcyclist, this is a terrifying thing to see on the side of the road. 3 and 4 and 5. I don't know if they're called a herd, but a bunch of bighorn sheep. Picasso asked, how tall is that? I would say they're about 3.5, 4 feet to the top of the horn. Maybe 3 feet to the shoulder, 3.5 feet to the shoulder. Huge, huge beasts. And just standing there, literally just staring at you. They didn't care. These were cars. There were trucks, motorcycles, everything going past them. And they were like, hey, how you doing? Just standing there. Some amazing rock formations, too. You can really see the geology of the area as you go through various mountains. What I'm showing now, you can see how the earth has twisted and bent the layers of rock over, obviously, millennia, millions of years. And the peaks are just wonderful, just spectacular. Everywhere we went, the entire drive. And the other amazing thing I noticed about it, I talk in my photography class. I always tell folks, look behind you. Every now and then there'll be, if you're at a famous place, there'll be something interesting behind you. Not all the time, well, 25% of the time. But in the mountains, I really found it interesting that as we moved in and out of cloud cover, the look of the mountain would change. I noticed we'd be driving by, and it would be an interesting picture. And I'd look over my shoulder, and it was an interesting picture. Just because the angle had changed, the light had changed, the cloud cover put an interesting shadow of it. Just unbelievable. If you get a chance, get up here. If you want an amazing vacation with just, if you're an outdoors type person, hiker, a biker, bicyclist, any of that kind of stuff, get up to Banff, get up to the area around here, Kananaskis and Canmore and Jasper and Lake Louise and all that kind of stuff, because you will just be in jaw-dropping awe of the sights that you'll see here. I'm driving the motorcycle down Trans-Canada one day, and literally on the side of the road, happily chewing away, were 4 elk. 1 male, and I'm going to assume because they were smaller, 3 females. The elk, the males don't have their horns. I guess they drop in the winter, or they grow them back. I don't know what the hell happens. But so they're not as spectacular, but still, these are big freaking animals. These are monstrously large animals that you see on the side of the road. And especially if you're a motorcyclist, you just tighten up. Everything just gets real tense. You slow right down. You drive past them saying stuff like, hi, little moose, little elk, please stay where you are. Do not come running out into the pavement in the path of my motorcycle, because you outweigh me. So that was my wonderful weekend adventure. I had a good time wandering around the, again, Kananaskis Trail, Kananaskis Country, they call it. As you're driving from Calgary to Banff, you pass through the Kananaskis area. And that's where all these pictures that I'm showing on the video and are on Flickr. Again, flickr.com/Your Mac Life. Your Mac Life. That's where all these pictures came from, is this great trail that goes from Canmore, and then a big loop, probably a 2-hour loop, half at gravel road, half at paved. The issue with the gravel, one reason why I went to the gravel part was because the gravel part was where the best pictures were. The paved part actually wasn't all that interesting, except for the big orange sheep by the side of the road being big and horned, freaky animals to see. Just, wow. So on tonight's show, again, we'll be talking to our friend Jim Downpour from The Loop at loopinsight.com. If I remember, and hopefully I will, I'll give away some prizes thanks to our friends at Incipio.com, Joby.com, Lowpro.com, AcmeMade.com, Pad and Quill Cases, and Olo Clip later on the show. We'll hopefully be giving away some of those prizes. If you haven't get your entry in, tonight's your last night chance for the month of May. Go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com, Friends of YML contest entry form right at the top of the page. Fill that out. It sends me an email. I drop your name into our virtual hat. But as of the 1st of June, you can do that all over again. So it's even easier if you subscribe to Your Mac Life. Give me $2, give me $5, give me $10, give me $15, whatever. PayPal money each and every month. That goes into my bank account, and then I take your name and I put it in the virtual hat on your behalf. You don't got to do nothing else. It's easy as that, and it helps keep me in motorcycle parts and other things. So later in the show, we won't be having our IRC Babe Sly, but we will be talking to our good friend Jim Downpour from The Loop at loopinsight.com right after this musical interlude. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. I'm Sean King, joined on our phone, actually my iPad. I've left my phone at work, so I got to go get it tomorrow. Jim Downpour from The Loop. Jim, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, we'll talk about your WWDC expectations article, but kind of tied into that was Tim Cook's appearance at the All Things D D11 conference this past week. Is Cook more important to the D conference than the D conference is to Tim Cook? In other words, is it more of a coup for Tim Cook to be there than it is for All Things D to have Tim Cook there?
Well, clearly it's more important for All Things D. Mm-hmm. I mean, for Tim, he can go anywhere he wants and and get an audience.
But isn't part of it the fact that he has a place for an audience? He has what can be perceived as, and I'm going to use air quotes, I don't mean this to be as offensive as it might come off, journalists like Walt Mossberg and Kara Swisher, who are perceived to be asking hard-hitting, tough questions, even when they're really not.
Well, I don't think, if Tim wasn't there, if Tim said, no, I don't want to do it,
no.
would that be more of a problem for All Things D, or would it be more of a problem for Tim?
Would it matter to either of them?
It would probably matter to the prestige of All Things D.
You think?
Yeah. I don't think it would matter to Tim that much.
I think what's interesting is if you look on various websites, Twitter feeds, how many people live blogged Tim's talk, interview, whatever you want to call it, and how much fewer people have been announcing who the next speaker is.
Yeah.
That speaks to Cook's importance, Apple's importance, and his stature in the tech community, doesn't it? I mean, the CEO of Twitter was there. I don't know what the guy's name is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was the same with most of the guests. I mean, do you know anybody else off the top of your head who's going to be speaking at All Things D?
Nope.
Me neither.
I'd recognize their names if someone said them, but I couldn't tell you who spoke after Tim Cook.
Yeah, well, you could tell me the Dalai Lama is going to be there tonight, and oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that. I knew Tim was going to be there, but,
That being said, if we're also focused on Apple CEO Tim Cook being in All Things D, how can the tech media be so consistently stupid in not understanding what that appearance is? It's not an announcement of new products. He's not going to show Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg the next version of the iPhone or the iMac or the iPad. And yet so many in the tech media were, quote, disappointed because he didn't announce something.
Well, I don't think that it should come as any great surprise about how stupid the tech media really is.
Well, that's true.
I mean, if you're still being surprised by that today, Sean, then I really don't know what to tell you.
Well, I mean, the perfect example is Adam Lashinsky over at Fortune, a guy who's been around for a long time, and yet even he contradicts himself, first of all, where he says that he was disappointed that Cook didn't announce anything, but then in the very next paragraph, he says no one was expecting Cook to announce anything. He's trying to have it both ways and talking to both sides of his face.
Yeah. Yeah, and that just doesn't work. You can't have that, but it seems to me to be, like the Wall Street Journal and some of their stuff today, and that people at the event were disappointed. Well, I think most people at the event would say that they were disappointed because they wanted Tim to stand up and say, here's the new TV and we're going to announce it here tonight. So if you went to somebody right after the thing and say, were you disappointed? Yeah, I wish they had announced something. Mm. But, did people go there with the expectation that Tim would announce something? Probably not. But, I think that the Journal is either deliberately being stupid to mess with us, or they have completely lost touch with Apple.
Well, a lot of people have. I mean, I just found the quote from Lashinsky where he says, it's a strange sight to see the CEO of Apple, a company known for its brilliance and vision, decline over and over to discuss just about anything in any detail. And yet, he then goes on to say in the next paragraph, over and over they asked Cook to spill the beans on future products, and over again he demurred, a predictable response. If it's predictable, you asshat, it's not a surprise.
Right.
Well, I just don't understand. I don't understand how these Well, what am I just this Mickey Mouse little podcaster missing, where these supposed big brains of tech journalism keep expecting Cook to stand up and say anything of substance?
Well, the other question is that you could say, well, what else did you expect? You know, and they knew, clearly they knew what was going to happen, but yet they had to write an article about something.
Yeah.
So it must be a disappointment. That's it.
Did you watch the video?
Yeah, I did.
What were your thoughts overall about the things that he said, and perhaps even the things he didn't say?
Well, I think that Tim does have to be very careful, and I agree with what he said at one point when they asked him to elaborate, and he said, I don't think I want to do that because I don't want to give our competition any ideas that they didn't already have.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Apple has already proven that they've got ideas that other people don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So why would he want to come out and give everything to All Things D when he doesn't have to?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand why these people expect him to do that. That somehow by the power of Uncle Walt's will, Tim Cook will break down and spill the beans, especially when in 2 weeks he's got WWDC.
Yeah. Well, and the fact is he probably won't spill the beans there either.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's move on to that then. You wrote an article over at loopinsight.com, WWDC expectations. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but is this the first time you've written this kind of prior show article? I don't remember you doing it for any Macworlds or any WWDCs in the past.
Really?
You may have, but I don't pay that much attention.
Well, clearly I don't either. I don't know. I didn't know that I hadn't done that. You could be right.
Yeah, you just tend not to talk about expectations of things. That's why I thought this article was particularly interesting. You stepping up and saying this is what folks should expect. Is that just you getting it off your chest, or are you actually trying to manage expectations for WWDC?
Well, I have no reason to want to manage any expectations beyond the fact that there are tech journalists who get paid, we think, to be smart and to think through a lot of the stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
And then to come up with some brilliant prose on how this affects us, and that doesn't happen very often, to be honest. And then you get, and I'm not trying to downplay anybody here, but you get the average Joe on Twitter that comes up with these brilliant 140 character statements.
Yeah.
And you think, geez, I mean, these guys are better than the people at CNN and that get paid to do this. Mm-hmm. So I think, can't you see after the keynote when there's no iPhone that they would say, oh, major disappointment at WWDC today, because that's what they do. That's what they do.
Is part of it, though, that Apple has shown off iPhones at WWDC in the past, and therefore people who just simply aren't paying attention are doing a past as prologue thing? And, 5 years ago, they showed off a new iPhone at WWDC, so they should do it again this time around.
Yeah, but you would really have to not be paying attention to know that times have changed.
Yeah.
Old past WWDCs are one thing, but that was a whole different market. Mm-hmm. We're well beyond that now. And the writers for, whether it's the New York Times or the the Wall Street Journal or Fortune, they have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
You know, they have to be aware that, okay, things have changed between 2007 till now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the way that Apple announces things have changed. So, you know, if they don't know that, they probably shouldn't be writing the stories.
You say, I think the best line in your article is, the important thing to remember about WWDC is that it is a developer conference. It's not a place where Apple's going to show off the newest iPhone or iPad. These are Apple's flagship products, and they demand separate events. Apple shows off things at WWDC that developers need to know about. New products, new OSs, things that they have to develop for hardware and software-wise, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about.
And folks, if you're reading or listening or hearing anyone say anything different, stop listening, reading, or hearing from those people, because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're just wasting your time.
No, I totally agree. I mean, you know, Apple has done a lot of things over the years at WWDC. They've done iPods. They've done, you know, all these different things. But what people need to really understand about this is that it is about developers. And, you know, first and foremost, it's what it is.
What do you expect to see at WWDC? What do you think Tim Cook will announce or talk about from the stage of the Moscone Center?
Well, knowing that this is a developer conference, obviously we're going to see some things about iOS 7 and Mac OS 10. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, those are given. Of course, we have to see those. But, you know, we should... I would like to see something there on iCloud, you know, and for developers. Now, whether we'll hear about that, I don't know. That may be the part of the sessions or NDA stuff that, you know, developers get to hear about. But I hope, for all of our sakes, that there's something in there on iCloud.
Do you think that it's that much of an issue at Apple? I don't get the sense from the folks that I talk to that it's really that I have a much of a concern for the grown-ups at Apple. For the worker bees, yeah, because they know. They're friends. People like us complain about it to them. But I don't get a sense that they get a sense that it's really an issue big enough for WWDC at Apple. Do you get the same sort of conversations from folks you know at Apple?
Well, I think that Apple really has to start paying attention to that because, you know, more and more it's something that we want as users. And if we're not going to get it, then, you know, we're going to continue to use other types of services.
But that being the case, for the average user, there are no other services that can compare to iCloud that can be used as easily as iCloud. For a developer point of view, yeah, iCloud is broken. It's messed up. You talk to any developer who has an app that has to access data in that way, and they all pull their hair out because the back end of iCloud is just a fustercluck, and they hate it.
Yeah. But, you know, you have things like Dropbox. Couldn't think of the name. You have things like, you know, services like Dropbox that people and apps. I mean, there are writing apps and things like that that people are using, and they use Dropbox as the syncing system, or as basically you write right into a file in Dropbox. I mean, there are people, including me, that would love to use iCloud for that, but developers are having trouble with that. So it's something that Apple needs to address.
I agree. I don't know that we'll see an announcement of it at WWDC, but I hope that the Apple tech geeks are working to make it better because it's got so much promise. The idea that you can have all this stuff in the iCloud is a great concept, but it doesn't work in practice for anything beyond the absolute basics.
Well, I mean, we talk about, it doesn't work beyond the basics, but isn't that what most people need? I mean, I use iCloud for the basics. I sync things. I have my calendars and my contacts, and it works beautiful. It's perfect for that. It hasn't let me down.
Mm-hmm.
I put documents in there when I'm using, AI Writer and Byword and, Pages and Numbers and all that kind of stuff. All my documents are in iCloud. And it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
It always works. But I'm using it as an average user would use it. I'm not using it as maybe pro people want, and some of the features that pro people may want. So, maybe I'm not the best person. I don't know.
I think the two things I'm going to be most interested to hear about at WWDC is something you and I have talked about in the past. We both believe Mac Pros will be announced at WWDC, right?
I think that there's going to be if there's going to be some hardware, I think it's going to be on the Mac side.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I know that people want to see the next iPhone and iPad, but it just doesn't fit for me. But Macs do. Macs, to me, that's a good fit.
But even then, I don't believe it's going to be taking up significant space at WWDC Tim Cook's keynote. I think it'll be an announcement of, hey, new Mac Pros, really fast, cheap, go buy now, and then moving on. I can't see them spending a lot of time on the Mac Pro. Can you, without showing off the next version of OS 10 that will run on that Mac Pro?
We also have to remember that WWDC is about it's kind of that one time in the year where Apple has the press and developers together, and they kind of use that for a State of the Union type of address. So, Tim is going to go over retail stuff.
Yeah.
He's going to go over adoption rates of iPads and iPad Mini and iOS, iPhones. I doubt that he'll talk about iPods, but he may throw something in there about iPods. He may address some things with the iTunes store. They've revamped it. They have all this stuff going on, and iTunes is very important to them. We can't underestimate that.
Sure.
So he may delve into that a little bit. So there's not a lot of time to waste. I mean, it's not like he's going to be standing up there wondering, what am I going to talk about next?
Yep.
He's got a lot of stuff to go over. So, I don't think that they're going to spend a lot of time on things outside of here's iOS 7 and Mac OS 10, and here are some of the things that we're looking to do over the next year. And really, this is what WWDC is all about, because it's Apple's plan for developers for the next year, and because of that, the plan for consumers over the next year.
Exactly.
So that's what he's going to spend his time on, I think.
There are lots of rumors about what the next version of iOS 7 is going to look like for a consumer, from a point of view of the user. And I think you and I agree, I don't think it's going to be nearly as radical as what a lot of the rumors are speaking of. You say iOS 7 is the thing everyone will be watching and talking about. People expect the operating system to move to a more flat design. Personally, I don't think that Apple will ever take it as far as some might think. Do you see iOS 7 as just a not evolution, but just the next step of iOS 6? In other words, it's not going to be significantly different from a user point of view?
I think it'll be a bit more drastic than an evolution. I think that just because it hasn't really changed. I mean, there's been very little that's changed
Doesn't
about.
have to change, though. I mean,
Well,
there's the question. What's wrong with the OS that it needs, the way a user looks at it? What's wrong
yeah,
with the
but
OS the way the user looks at it?
you could say that about Mac OS 10 too.
Yep.
Why did it have to change? But once it does change, and you look at it, you think, yeah, okay, and then you look back into what they had, and you think, oh my God, that was terrible. Everything was drop shadowed, really thick, and candy and all kinds of stuff in there. So,
Yep.
Apple's good at forcing change, and this will probably be one of those times. So I think once we see it, we'll probably say, yeah, this is much better.
I think one of the interesting things for me is to see how, remember Steve Jobs, not Steve Jobs, but people before him, but Steve Jobs famously said, good artists borrow, great artists steal. Johnny Ive is a great artist. I wonder what he's going to steal from Android. Because I've seen, not many, but a couple of Android devices in the wild. And some of the stuff they can do, again, from a user point of view, is kind of cool. It's not hugely necessary. I mean, for example, now because I live in the wilds of Alberta, and it's seemingly weather changes every 35 seconds, and I'm on a motorcycle, and the weather's trying to kill me on a regular basis, I need to know what the weather's going to be like at any moment. So I'm constantly picking my phone up, scrolling to my weather app, scrolling over to the town that I'm in, trying to find radar of it. It'd be really cool if I could have that on the splash screen of my phone. So when I push the home button, boom, there's a weather map. I don't got to do anything else. That's the lock screen. I've seen that on Android device. Now maybe they're hacked or rooted or whatever the hell it's called. But being able to use the lock screen for more information, I think might be kind of cool for iOS 7. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting to see how and where Johnny Ive borrows from both Android devices and even to a certain degree Windows phones too, because there's some interesting things going on there too.
Well, let's not forget that Johnny's not going to be looking at things like that. Those are features that if the features happen, Johnny will have a hand in designing.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be the one to say, let's put this in there. He's going to be the one sitting back saying, what's the best way to show this? This is a feature that Tim wants. So we have to figure out the best way to split up this screen so that it shows the most valuable information, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
So that'll be his role in it, and what one engineer or one group of engineers decides to put in there. I guess we're a couple of weeks away from finding out. That'll be very. It's going to be very interesting keynote when it comes down to the feature set and the design.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be one of the more interesting keynotes for a while, if only because maybe it's my own personal perception. There's going to be a lot more. There's been such a huge gap in time since Apple last announced something significant. Someone said that it's been the longest period of time ever for Apple to announce significant product, either hardware or software announcements. And
yeah, but Apple went through quite a period at the end of last year announcing new stuff too. So you can either space it out and make people wait a bit longer, or you can announce, like everything at once, like they did to catch the holiday season, and then disappoint people because they haven't announced anything in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And again, I ask you, when is the last time Dell announced a computer? Tell me.
I have no clue. Could not tell you.
Yeah, nobody knows.
That's right.
I don't even Dell knows. Because nobody cares.
That's right. That's right.
But Apple goes a few months without announcing something, even though they went through this huge period of product releases, and people are just beside themselves. Oh my God! It's been 5 months and Apple hasn't released anything. They've lost all their mojo, and things are going downhill fast. Sell my stock quick.
This wouldn't be happening if Steve Jobs was still alive.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at a period of time. If you can't just take this 5 months and say, and no wonder the stock's going down. You can't do that. That's not logical to do.
Lex Friedman over at Macworld.com has an interesting article called "Why Apple Will Enter and Dominate the Wearable Technology Market," and he refers back to some of the things that Tim Cook hinted at in the All Things D interview that he did. Let's just look at the headline. Do you agree that Apple will enter and therefore will dominate the wearable technology market, Jim?
Well, here's the thing. Will Apple enter the market? Apple will enter the market if the things that they are working on right now pan out. No. They're not going to enter our market just because people want them to. Mm-hmm. I mean, we wanted them. Remember, years ago, we wanted them to enter the phone market, and they didn't. It was driving us nuts. But the whole time, they were working on a phone. Just because people want them to enter a wearable computer market doesn't mean that they will. Do I think that they're investigating that and they're working on products to make the integration with ourselves better? Yes, I do believe that. Yeah. So does it mean that they're going to enter the market? Absolutely not. If they can make it work to Apple standards and satisfy people like Johnny Ive and Tim Cook and Phil Schiller, if they can do that, then Apple will enter the market, but not before.
I think that Lex is being overly optimistic. I don't doubt that Apple will enter the market, but as you say, in the time and place and method of their own choosing. That being said, from what Tim Cook said at All Things D, thank God he seems to be peeing all over the idea of glasses, Apple glasses, Google glasses, things like that. He didn't seem to be particularly impressed, nor should he be, in my opinion, by Google Glass. Do you agree?
Yeah. No, I mean, he didn't say anything that surprised me. I mean, when he said that about Google Glass, I didn't say, "Oh my God." That's right. I didn't flip over to Twitter and say, "What's going on Twitter now?" I mean, I think that's how most people think about Google Glass, beyond, the geeks. Yep. And that's not a slam on the geeks that may like them, but that's what geeks do. Yep. Geeks, go for this kind of stuff and they really like it. I mean, it was like the Segway when it first came out, and who ended up being the most famous Segway rider? Was. Yeah. So, I mean, good for him, really. But, the average person doesn't own a Segway. Yeah. And maybe they should. Maybe they should. I had a riot driving on one.
Yes, so did I. Oh, yeah, I had. But I've ridden a Segway several times. And I think it's fantastic. You're like an utter dork on one, but it's a lot of fun.
That's because I was drunk at the time, but,
When were you on a Segway?
Down in Nashville.
Oh, okay. So you took the Nashville trip.
Yep.
Yeah, I've every major city I've been to, DC, San Francisco.
No. I was at a company in Nashville, and they had a Segway. Were
you down there with the boys at Griffin?
Yeah.
They had the souped-up Segway.
Yes, they did.
They had the racing Segway. It was crazy. When I was down there in Griffin, they were building ramps to jump a Segway with.
Yeah. Well, we went down there for a meeting one time, and Paul and I went out on the deck in the second building. Mm-hmm. Went out on the deck. We were drinking. They had Heineken waiting for me in the fridge. So I let the the guys do the meeting, and I went out drinking with Paul, and then we brought out the Segway.
It was fun.
Yeah.
He bought like 4 of those because the good old boys in the warehouse kept breaking them. When they got bored, they would do backward Segway races, and I never thought it was true. I always thought it was just a Southern stereotype until the time I heard the actual words, "Hey, Bubba, watch this."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was some good old boy building a ramp for his Segway.
And when you hear those words, you know it's time to go home. The night is over right then and there.
But call 911 before you go, because someone's getting hurt.
Because, it's only going downhill from there.
Yeah, that's right. His Shadow says in the RC chat room, ArcSign says, wearable technology isn't on the horizon this moment. It's all about iOS and the tablet. 2-year-old kids are picking up their older siblings, parents, or their own iPads. Do you agree with that? Do you think wearable technology is more than 2 years out?
No, it could be.
I don't think so. We have wearable tech now. I mean, look at the Nike Fuel and the Fitbit.
Don't make that mistake, though. Yeah. See, the mistake that people make is, we already have that. Yeah. No, we don't, because this is going to be, Apple solving a problem. Yeah. And if Apple's going to solve a problem, it's going to be better than what we have now. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be different than what we have now. What you could have said in 2007, Apple's going to release a phone. Well, we already have a phone. Yeah, not like this. You don't. And they proved what an industry changing device it was. And even Apple was surprised with how popular the App Store was. Yeah. I mean, it blew their minds, because what did we have first? Web apps. Web apps is the way to go. No, it's not. Real apps are. So,
and I think that's the key too. Apple's not going to do this either from a developer point of view, or from a corporation point of view, or from their own desire point of view. They're not going to do something that's the same thing as everybody else's does with just an Apple logo on it. They would get crucified if they just came out with a watch. They have to, almost institutionally, have to come out with something that does it more, does better, does it more elegantly than anything anyone else has got out there.
Well, what would happen if Apple came out and said, "Yeah, we're going to come out with these glasses, and you wink and it takes pictures, and you can video things," and they would be crucified. It would just be terrible. It would be like leading them to slaughter in the press. Did you see that Google Glass is getting its first porn app next week?
Well, you knew that was happening.
Well, that's what I said when I posted it. I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. But you knew that was coming.
Sure.
Because you're going to be able to sit on a bus, looking across the aisle at this pretty girl, and you're going to have porn playing on your Google Glass. It's just going to be the creepiest thing ever.
Oh, absolutely. I think we'll see Google Glass get banned in as many places as the Segway was, if not more, because Google Glass is cheaper and even more invasive. I think this is going to be something that we won't even hear about in 5 years. It's not the time or the place for Google Glass. In the future, 10, 20, 50 years, yes. But in 5 years, this will be dead.
What imagine like on beaches and just walking around snapping pics and places where you're not allowed to have cameras.
Well, even places where you are allowed to have cameras, I can see Google Glass not being acceptable. You can go to a public playground and sit on the swing set, but if you got a pair of Google Glasses on, some parent is going to come up to you and tell you to take those off. Would you want some guys sitting on the swing set with Google Glasses on looking at your kids?
Well, that'd just be a throat punch right there.
Exactly. Hell yes. He'll say, it's legal to do this. Yeah, don't care.
Yeah, but I'm in Canada. It's legal to throat punch too.
Now, speaking of Canada, I haven't seen them yet because you don't pay me nearly enough. But have you seen and apparently smelt the new Canadian $100 bills?
No.
I haven't even seen one, but apparently Daily Mail in the UK says the Canadians are complaining their new plastic $100 bills have the unmistakable aroma of maple syrup.
Yes. Yes, apparently so.
And my first thought was, well, why not?
Yeah. Well,
what's the problem?
And the choice was between maple syrup and beaver crap, so I'm just glad they chose maple syrup.
And on that note, we shall let him go. We've been talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Apparently, he needed a co-host for his Amplified podcast and didn't call me. He called some guy named Mike, spelled his name stupidly, Hurley, to talk about Tim Cook at the D11 conference and WWDC expectations. So pretty much the same things Jim and I just talked about. Go to the iTunes store, do a search for Amplified, and listen to King of Canada, Jim Dalrymple from The Loop. Thanks for joining me, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I did that whole one on my iPad. This is the first time. Usually I've got my iPhone, but I forgot it. I left it behind. So I actually, my first Skype call on the iPad went pretty good. No big sound difference. I wasn't expecting any sound difference. Let me put that down there. We're still trying to solve the problem of these ads that are interrupting the show. We thought Justin TV was the solution. It's not. Apparently Justin TV is doing it too. Now, ArcSign is saying stuff. He's saying that on iOS devices, your iPhone and your iPad, iPod Touch, I assume, he's not seeing or hearing any of the ads for Justin TV, on Justin TV. So maybe that's the way to go, at least for the time being. Try to watch the video or listen to the audio on your iPod, iPhone, iPad, and see if that works. I got to get this fixed somehow. It's driving me nuts that you guys, in the middle of the show, while I'm talking, Justin TV and Ustream are inserting commercials, inserting audio and video ads in the middle of someone's broadcast. That's insane. I don't understand. I understand how you guys can think that's a good idea, how that can somehow work for you, that you would interrupt a podcast with your, lack of a better term, bullshit. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. Les Posen down in Australia has been giving me an update on all the IKEA ads. He's getting IKEA ads. He said, I wouldn't mind so much, actually not much at all, if I knew you were making decent dough from the ads and it didn't cut across you and you actually cut to an ad. Yeah, that's the other thing. I'm not making any money off Justin TV or Ustream. Now, granted, I'm not paying anything either, and that's probably the solution I'm going to have to go with if other things that I'm going to try don't pan out. I think this is the way free broadcasters, free streaming sites are going, is with this ad thing. And again, I don't mind an ad at the beginning of it. I have no problem with that. When you click on a link and there's an ad that happens first, that's okay. But these ads in the middle, it's going to kill the business model. Absolutely going to kill the business model for this kind of streaming, because it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. By the way, our good friend Maurice Chevalier and the keeper of the Mac Museum behind me, Grasshopper Wheat Ale. If you're looking for a yummy, let's see if I can get this in the right light, a yummy wheat ale, and wheat ales are still beer, but they're made with wheat instead of barley. They're a great summer beer. This one's from Alberta. It's from a Big Rock brewery right here in Calgary, using Alberta wheat. So if you see that in store, check it out. And you like wheat beers? It's actually very, very yummy. Very tasty. So thanks to Maurice for bringing one of those things down for me. Let's do some emails. As always, emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. We love getting emails from you guys. Any comments you have about the show, any questions, anything like that, send them to me at onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. ArcSign says, no Justin TV on iOS. Justin TV requires Flash. I'm listening via Ustream, and I've watched via Ustream and had no ads. So give that a try, folks. Let's see. We got a question from Ann. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and have owned an iPhone 4S for almost 13 months. My question is, what kind of application can I purchase to help me find blogs about specific subjects? I've seen apps that you can use to take care of an existing blog, but I haven't found any to find new blogs to subscribe to. Thanks in advance. And don't buy a thing. Google. Just do a Google search for, I don't know, blog and specific subject. So cat blogs, toad blogs, cooking blogs. You do not need to buy an app to find anything, Ann. So don't worry about that at all. Scott Randall. We talked a little while ago. First of all, Scott Randall, Long Island Macintosh user group, LiMug, as they're known. He says, "Hey, Sean, first I wanted to wish you the best of luck in your new location." Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. I'm writing about the listener named Scott, who was complaining about not being able to financially cover the cost of upgrading his iPhone 3GS and the present OS on both his iPhone and 2012 Mac Mini not running well. First, the iPhone. You can upgrade to an iPhone 4 for exactly $0. I just recently did just that. My first iPhone, and for me, it works fine. I have the latest iOS on it. Yep, original Scott from last week. I don't know why. My apologies for not saying something about that. But your provider, I'm not sure if you're in the States or not, but you can. I went into a local Rogers. Oh, by the way, if you Americans think you're getting screwed with your cell phones, come on to Canada. Oh, I'm in the store talking to this Rogers guys. My jaw's hitting the floor. They're still charging for long distance charges in Canada. They're still giving you minutes. There's no unlimited basic plan in Canada. There's no unlimited long distance on your basic plan in Canada. They're still doing nights and weekend BS. It just burns my bottom. And then when I went to go get internet access, Shaw.ca, Shaw Cable, there is no unlimited internet access either. You pay bandwidth. You pay by gigabyte per month, which just, oh God, just pisses me off. So anyway, Scott, yeah, go talk to your AT&T, Verizon, whoever you got, and they can upgrade you to an iPhone 4 for free, an iPhone 4S for dirt cheap. The good news about Rogers here in Canada, I can get a new iPhone 5 for $79. Now, yeah, it's a 3-year contract, so I'm not doing that. But you talk to your provider, Scott, and you probably get a deal. Scott Randall from the LiMug says, next, his 2012 Mac Mini. It is not feasible that installing Mountain Lion on a Mac that new would slow it down. My son installed it on his 5-year-old MacBook Pro, and it seems to run the same as before. I suspect a different culprit making his Mac Mini slow down. Probably an application that won't quit or is running in the background. Before upgrading to a new version of the system software, always make sure your other software is compatible. You can check for software running in the background by using Activity Monitor, by using the Activity Monitor. It's in your application folder, in your utilities folder. It's called Activity Monitor. If you find something running that you were not aware of, you can use Activity Monitor to quit or force quit. But, and this is where I'll interrupt Scott Randall from LiMug, don't force quit or quit anything you don't know what it is. Your Activity Monitor monitors all the stuff that's going on in your computer. And some of those things are background stuff, like the Windows UI server, that if you force quit them, will mess your machine up. Or at the very least, it might crash your computer. So don't force quit anything you don't already understand what's going to happen when you do it. You should also check for any software compatibility issues at roaringapps.com. ROARING apps.com. Roaring as in lion. Roaringapps.com. I hope this helps him and any other listeners having problems. Scott Randall, LiMug. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. William Ray Wing, will an iPad charger charge an iPhone or iPad mini faster than the supplied iPhone charger? No, it will not. While the iPad charger does deliver more juice to charge the iPad, the iPhone and the iPad mini will not accept more juice that the iPad charger is delivering. So it's not going to make any difference. It won't charge any faster. That being said, you could use an iPhone charger to charge your iPad. It'll just be slower because it's delivering less juice. You can also use that cable to charge your iPad off your laptop, but the iPad can't be in use. It won't charge very fast that way. So Misfit Tech says, probably startup item, Sean, usually Dropbox for an application that starts before Wi-Fi starts. The other thing is, talking about the Mac 2012 Mac Mini that doesn't run very well, one of the things you can do is just wipe it, do a backup, wipe it, reinstall the original operating system, the original applications, and see if that makes any difference. You might have some crud in there that you haven't used or installed and forgot about. And see if that will help fix any of the issues that you have. Our friend Lauren Finkelstein, pronunciation of acronyms. Hey, Sean, I agree it's dumb that people care about the pronunciation of GIF or GIF. I don't care how it's pronounced. I almost never say it. Like Jim said, I pronounce it JPEG. That said, I do disagree with you on two things. I think if you invent something, then you get to name it. People on the internet don't get to take that away. They can use it wrong, but it will always be wrong. People can mispronounce my last name forever, but that will never change the fact of what is correct. It doesn't matter if the G comes from graphics with a hard G. Acronyms are not always pronounced based on the words they are made of. What does the I stand for in MILF? How do you pronounce it? I just like getting to use MILF as an example of anything. Lauren Finkelstein. Thanks, Lauren. Eric Zylstra, talking about taxes. We were talking last week, Apple paying $6 billion in taxes. $6 billion out of $240 billion total to only 12 federal taxes. Apple is meeting its moral obligation. This is a long one, so I'm only going to do bits and pieces. Matthew Higa, you mentioned early in last week's show about Maurice Chevalier's collection of old classic Macs. How about arranging them on a movable platform, like a cart or a handmade dolly of some sort? You could use 2 or 3 more dollies. That way, you can change the background of YML for those who watch the video feed whenever you wish. You can rotate the display weekly, monthly, or whatever. Just a thought. It's a good thought. There's not enough room here, Matthew, to have dollies of stuff. What we're going to do, once we get some time, poor Maurice has been busy. There used to be stairs over there. They're not anymore. They're gone. We have to clean out the garage. Apparently, in the next couple of weeks, I did not know this, next couple of weeks, the Calgary area is going to enter hail season. You know, like down south you have tornado season. Well, apparently we have hail season. Last year they had golf ball sized hail. So you got to put your car in a garage and your motorcycle. So Maurice and I have got to clean out the garage, rearrange the garage actually, because he apparently doesn't throw anything away. He's listening right now upstairs, so I can't say too much. So we have to reorganize his garage so we can get at least his wife's Beetle and my motorcycle in the garage. So yeah, poor Maurice has got more things on his plate than you could even imagine. What else we got going on? And Matthew also says, Matthew, you're going to have to explain why you even sent this, because this is just, hang on, I'm looking at the IRC chat room. Purchase M&Ms. You cannot be aware of the population density of Canada and still make direct comparisons between U.S. and Canadian ISPs. You're right. MacMan, I don't know, Sean. My iPad charger seemed to charge my iPhone 4 a lot faster. That may be seem. And ArcSign says, are you sure, Sean? I'm behind on what you guys are talking about in the IRC chat room, so you have to be a little more clear when you write things to me. MacMan says, I read that the iPhone will take more than 1A of charge current fine. That doesn't make any sense, MacMan. ArcSign says, seems like the iPhone and iPad mini would be unnaturally limited if it couldn't take advantage of a stronger charger. Well, okay. That being said, let's find out. Who do we talk to? Who's the battery expert that we could talk to find out whether the chargers will charge, whether an iPad charger will charge an iPhone faster than the supplied iPhone charger? Who would I talk to about that? I don't know any battery experts. Usually I'd just, call a guy up who knows a battery expert. I'll have to find a battery expert. Bob Studer sends an email. I'm watching the show in Safari on my Mac Mini, plugged into my Plasma via HDMI. Dude, that's just weird. I'm sorry. That's just. But he says, I'm not seeing any ads. That's the other thing that's really weird. The ads seem to be hit and miss. Some people do see them, some people don't, even when you're looking at the exact same platform. Bob says, Safari, Mac Mini, he's not seeing any ads. Now Bob, Justin TV. So he's not seeing any ads at Justin TV. I'm so confused. This is just driving me nuts trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. Matthew in Davis, California. So what's a chicharrone? I actually had to ask the cute Italian girl how to say that. Cicerone. Chicharrone. So what is a chicharrone and what is the weirdest beer they have? Check out this article from Serious Eats. So he's got a link there. I go to drinks.seriouseats. And it says a chicharrone is a beer expert who has passed a particular certification exam administered by the Craft Beer Institute. Well, not according to the cute Italian girl I talked to. Chicharone is the name back in the Roman days. Someone who talked too much. And now they use that name as a description of the people in museums. What do they call them in America? In Canada. Starts with a D, not duvets. Doyens? No, that's not right. What's the name? What's the word for the guides in a museum? They'll take tour groups around. Doyens? I want to say doyens, but that's not right. Ducats? That's not right either. I can't remember what it's called. I'm now filling time while I wait for someone in the IRC chat room to pop up and tell me. No, MacBand, not tour guide. Starts with a D. Smart ass. Come on, IRC. You guys are smarter than me. I'm waiting. I can sit here all night, wait for you guys to answer the question. I want to say Doyen. Okay, let me look up Doyen. So you guys are absolutely no help. Doyene. Nope. A doyen is a woman who is the most respected or prominent person in a particular field. I knew that wasn't the right word. You guys are of no help whatsoever. Anyway, Matthew, why did you send me that article about the chicharone was here? I don't understand. Guys are docent. Thank you, P. Booth. The docent. That's what we call docents in North America. In Italy, they call them chiccharones because they talk. So that was not worth the time it took to do. Let's find something that is worth the time it takes to do. As always, we appreciate you guys who are joining in on our Friends of YML contest. I love running this contest. As Mo chided me earlier, I don't always do it. Yeah, I forget sometimes. Sometimes I don't have the opportunity to do it. Sometimes I just slips my mind, whatever. On this week's show, let's give away an Incipio case from the nice folks at Incipio.com. If you hear your name called, send me an email. Let me know what kind of Incipio case you would like for your iPhone, your iPad, iPad mini, iPad 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be. So send me that link when you hear your name called. I'll wait for someone in the IRC chat room to say stop. As I'm doing this, I'm scrolling through our Friends of YML contest entry form entries. And we'll draw one of the names out of the hat here in a moment. Again, you can get this done automatically for you. You don't have to fill an entry form. Just go to yourmaclifeshow.com website, and you can subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15, whatever amount of money you'd like per month. And that goes into my PayPal account, and I buy heated gear for the motorcycle. Man, it's been cold out there. Oh, my goodness, it's been chilly. Come on, some of the IRC chat. Someone say stop. I've been pushing this button now for a while. Come on. There we go. Come on, somebody. IRC guys are just not on the ball tonight. Just not on the ball. There we go. MacMan says stop. One goes out to Timothy Jason. Timothy Jason is in California. He doesn't say where in California, but Timothy, congratulations. You've won an Incipio case. Thanks to the nice folks at Incipio.com. Send me an email with what kind of case you would like, whether it's your for iPhone, iPod Touch maybe, which iPhone, iPhone 4, 4S, 5, and which iPad or iPad mini you have. And we'll get the nice folks at Incipio.com to send that off to you. MacMan, we were going to see how long you'd keep scrolling. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. MacMan, this is for you. And on that happy note, folks, I want to say thanks very much for you guys for joining me. Thanks very much to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. And I promise Sly will be on the show next week. Sly, you have to be. It's been like 6 months. I don't think Sly's been on the show since I've been in Canada. I wonder if she's avoiding me. No, she wouldn't do that. Would she? I don't think so. But we'll definitely have Sly on next week's show. Don't forget, next week will be a new month. So you'll have to send in a new entry form if you want to join the Friends of YML contest entry form for the month of June. Send that to me on June 1st. Don't send it earlier. If you send it earlier, I delete them. If you send it on May 29th or 30th or 31st, I delete them. They've got to come in the month of June. So do that, and we'll draw for more prizes next month on YML. Until next week, folks, as always, I appreciate you guys joining me, whether you're listening to live or via the archive. And until next week, as always, I've been Sean King, and you've been tuned into Your Mac Life. See ya!